She called the cops because I refused to join her mandatory lake HOA. She said I was using their water. What she didn't know was that I had the original survey, the state water rights map, and cameras pointed at every inch of my shoreline. She thought she owned the lake. She didn't even own the land beneath her own dock. I bought my property for the silence. 10 acres tucked against a narrow stretch of fresh water that fed into a larger public reservoir. No gates, no clubhouse, no manicured signs announcing rules about mailbox paint colors. Just gravel road access and a small wooden post near the driveway marking the boundary line. I'm a civil engineer by trade. I read plats and easements the way most people read weather apps. Before I closed, I spent 3 weeks reviewing the county records. The deed was clear. No HOA, no covenants. The lake frontage was governed by state environmental guidelines, not a private association. That mattered to me. The first time she came over, I was installing a small aluminum dock kit, fully permitted, stamped by the county shoreline authority. Her heels sank into the dirt as she approached, like she already owned the ground. "You must be the new owner," she said, smiling without warmth. "I'm Linda, president of the Lakeview Shores HOA." I wiped my hands and introduced myself. She glanced at the dock sections laid out beside the water. "I don't see an approval tag." "It's county permitted," I replied calmly, "filed last month." She nodded slowly, like I'd answered incorrectly. "All lake structures require HOA review for safety and community compliance." "I'm not part of the HOA," I said. The smile thinned. "Everyone on the lake is." I'd prepared for that. I walked her to the property marker post and showed her the survey map on my phone. The red boundary line stopped 50 feet short of her association's mapped area. "This parcel was subdivided before the HOA was formed. It's not annexed." She didn't argue, she just took photos. Of me, of the dock, of my truck. "You'll be hearing from us," she said. After that, the visits became routine. Sometimes she came alone, sometimes with a man who carried a clipboard but never spoke. She used the same language every time. Safety concern, uniform shoreline standards, community harmony, shared lake liability. She left printed notices in plastic sleeves at the end of my driveway. They looked official: letterhead, bold typeface, red font warnings about non-compliance penalties. I kept every single one. I responded once, a certified letter, quoting the recorded plat, the non-inclusion certificate from the county clerk, and the state water access statute. Polite, clinical. Her next notice included the phrase, "Daily fines may apply." That was when I installed cameras. Not hidden, just visible dome units mounted under the eaves, and one overlooking the shoreline. Motion triggered, time-stamped, cloud backed up. I wasn't worried, but I recognized escalation when I saw it. The third week, she brought up insurance exposure. "If someone drowns off your dock, the HOA gets sued." "No," I replied evenly, "they don't." Her jaw tightened. The pressure wasn't loud, it was persistent. A knock during dinner, a car idling near the fence line, emails forwarded from a generic HOA account claiming final notice. I never raised my voice, I never ignored her, I responded with documents. That seemed to bother her more than resistance would have. The turning point came on a Thursday afternoon. She stood at the water's edge, hands on hips, staring at my completed dock. "This is your last chance. Join the association voluntarily or we'll pursue enforcement." "On what authority?" I asked. Her answer was immediate. "Will involve law enforcement." That was the first time she said it out loud, and the way she said it told me she believed it. That night, I requested certified copies of the original 1983 shoreline survey from the county archives. Something in her tone had shifted. This wasn't about community standards anymore. It was about control. And she was preparing to cross a line. The police arrived on a Sunday morning. 2 patrol units rolled slowly down my gravel drive while I was pressure washing the side of my shed. Linda stepped out of her SUV behind them, arms folded. One officer approached calmly, professional, neutral. "We received a complaint that you constructed an unauthorized structure on a private lake governed by an HOA. I shut off the washer. "It's not a private lake," I said. Linda interjected. "He's refusing compliance. We've issued multiple notices." The officer asked for documentation. I handed him a folder I kept ready in the garage cabinet. Permit, survey, non-HOA certification, state water map showing the reservoir designated as public trust water. He studied it carefully. The second officer walked down toward the dock with Linda. I watched from a distance. Then something happened that changed everything. She stepped onto my dock without permission and began photographing the connection brackets, narrating loudly. "This is evidence of non-compliance, structural violation." The officer told her, "Ma'am, let's not—" She waved him off. "I am the acting authority for this lake." The words hung there. Acting authority. The officers returned 10 minutes later. "There's no criminal issue here," the first officer said evenly. "This appears to be a civil dispute." Linda's face reddened. "You're not understanding. This lake belongs to the HOA." The officer looked at me. "Sir, do you want her trespassed from your property?" I answered carefully. "If she enters again without permission, yes." Her expression shifted from anger to disbelief. That should have ended it. It didn't. 3 days later, I received a certified envelope from a law firm retained by the HOA, demanding removal of my dock and payment of accumulated fines. The total listed $8,400. I forwarded it to an attorney I'd already consulted after the first police visit. He'd done something I appreciated deeply. He'd gone further back than I had. The original 1979 reservoir acquisition documents showed the lake bed was owned by the state. The HOA owned a strip of shoreline on the opposite side, but not the water itself, not the basin, not my frontage. More importantly, annexation of external parcels required recorded consent. Mine had never been recorded. My attorney filed a formal demand for retraction of fines and a cease and desist regarding harassment. That same week, my shoreline camera captured something definitive. At 6:42 a.m., Linda and the silent clipboard man walked onto my property line with a measuring wheel. They stepped 6 feet past the boundary marker. Clear timestamp, clear faces. Trespass. We filed it. Not loudly, not dramatically, formally. The sheriff's office issued a citation. Then came the real fracture. My attorney submitted a petition requesting a declaratory judgment affirming non-membership and invalidity of fines. The HOA's insurance carrier was notified. That triggered an internal review. At the next board meeting, open to residents, the issue was placed on the agenda. She thought she was untouchable. She wasn't prepared for documents older than her presidency, and once those were entered into record, there was no putting them back. If you enjoy the video, please subscribe. The HOA meeting was standing room only. Word spreads quickly around water. Linda sat at the front table, posture rigid, binder open in front of her. She still believed this was a misunderstanding she could talk her way through. My attorney spoke first. He projected the original reservoir acquisition map onto the clubhouse wall, then the non-annexation certificate, then the state statute outlining public water rights. He finished with the trespass footage. Silent room. Timestamp visible in the corner. Linda crossing the boundary marker. The board members shifted uncomfortably. One of them asked quietly, "Were we ever granted ownership of the lake?" The answer was no. The HOA owned common docks and shoreline landscaping on its platted side, nothing more. The fines were invalid. The enforcement letters were unauthorized. The insurance carrier had already flagged potential liability exposure for misrepresentation of property rights. By the end of the meeting, the fines were rescinded. A motion was introduced to remove Linda as president pending investigation. It passed unanimously. Weeks later, she faced misdemeanor trespass charges, minor but public. The HOA's legal expenses were disclosed to residents at the annual budget review. They were not small. A formal correction letter was mailed to every homeowner clarifying the association's actual jurisdiction boundaries. Neighbors who had once avoided eye contact stopped by to apologize. "We thought you were just being difficult," one admitted. I wasn't. I was being precise. By early fall, the board had new leadership. The language in their communications changed. Less threat, more clarity. My dock remained exactly where it had always been, aligned with the survey pins driven into the soil decades before I arrived. Some mornings I sit out there with coffee and watch the mist lift off the water. No patrol cars, No envelopes, just the sound I moved there for in the first place. Stillness. Authority only works when it's real, and patience, properly documented, is louder than any threat ever was.